The chair lays before the House a communication from the Speaker.
The Speaker's Rooms, Washington, D.C., July 16, 2025. I hereby appoint the Honorable Marlon H. Stutzman to act as Speaker pro tempore on this day. Signed, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Pursuant to the order of the House of January 3rd, 2025, the chair will now recognize members from lists submitted by the majority and minority leaders for morning hour debate. The chair will alternate recognition between the parties, with time equally allocated between the parties and each member other than the majority and minority leaders and the minority whip limited to 5 minutes, but in no event shall debate continue beyond 11:50 a.m. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Emmer, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize St. Michael Mayor Keith Wetschreck, who is retiring later this month. For nearly 20 years, Mayor Wetschreck has been a fixture in the St. Michael community. After serving in the United States Navy for more than 26 years, Keith returned home to Minnesota, determined to continue driving positive change in his community. Keith's service in local government began with a role on the city's Planning and Zoning Commission. He was later elected to the City Council, where he served until being elected mayor in 2020. Throughout Keith's time in office, he has been a staunch defender of fiscal responsibility, having slashed the city's debt in half. And he's also been an invaluable partner as we've worked to fund transportation and infrastructure projects in St. Michael and the surrounding communities. Thanks to Keith's leadership, St. Michael has flourished. His dedication and vision over the years have made the St. Michael community a better place to live, work, and raise a family. We are deeply grateful to Mayor Wetschreck for his service to the St. Michael community, and we wish him and his wife Tracy and their 2 children, Michael and Ann, all the best in the next chapter. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Quigley, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, diversity has become a bad word here in D.C. But diversity has never been a weakness. It has always been our greatest strength. Without the calculations of Katherine Johnson, a black mathematician at NASA, American astronauts may never have successfully returned from space. Without the code talkers, Native Americans who turned their indigenous languages into an unbreakable code, American soldiers may not have been victorious in the Second World War. Without the bravery of the Tuskegee Airmen, who courageously flew into battle abroad despite facing discrimination at home, the freedom of all Americans might have been at risk. Throughout this nation's history, countless people have had to fight for their right to be included. My good friend, Brad Lang, and his father, Donald, are powerful examples of that fight. In 1942, Donald W. Lang Sr. enlisted in the Army with dreams of becoming a pilot. Like many men at the time, Donald felt it was his duty to serve his country. But despite scoring well on the aptitude test, he, like many other qualified black men, was forced to wait while white pilots were fast-tracked for training. By the time he was accepted for pilot training at the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama in 1945, the Second World War was coming to a close. While he never made it overseas, Mr. Lang rose to the rank of Master Sergeant at the Army Air Corps, received 3 medals for his service, and served directly under Colonel Noel Parrish, the commander of the Tuskegee program. Mr. Lang didn't open up about his military service until his son Brad showed an interest in aviation in the 70s. On Sundays, after church, Donald would take his family to Newark Airport to watch flights take off and land. That's where Brad's fascination with airline flying began. A decade later, he achieved what his father couldn't do. Brad earned his pilot's license in college before enrolling as the only black student in Purdue University's aviation program. At a time when black pilots were still rare, he became a captain for Delta Airlines. Through it all, he never forgot to pay homage to those who made his career in aviation possible. He volunteered with the commemorative Air Force Red Tail Squadron for 29 years to ensure that his father's legacy and that of the Tuskegee Airmen is preserved and shared. In 2015, Brad participated in the Arsenal of Democracy flyover to mark the 70th anniversary of victory in Europe. He flew a P-51C Mustang Tuskegee Airman over the Capitol in a tribute to our nation's first black military pilots. He once said about his father, his experience at Tuskegee was a paramount experience for him in terms of directing his life after the military. He would always relate to the discipline and the moral integrity that was part of the esprit de corps that was at Tuskegee. He was motivated to see other people like himself motivated to aviate and also fight for their country. They all had that common core experience. Brad and his father's Donald story is an American story. It is the story of a father whose dreams were denied and a son who honored his legacy by breaking barriers of his own. It is a story of persistence, pride, and progress. Brad captured it best when he said, "No matter what the circumstances that you are up against, it is possible to rise against adversity, just like the airmen did, and succeed." Their story is a reminder that American progress has also depended on those who persevered in the face of prejudice. Their story shows that diversity is not a threat nor a weakness. It is a competitive advantage. It is a source of national strength. It has driven innovation, expanded opportunity, and is a common theme throughout our shared American story. In a time of rising division, these stories call upon us to remember who we are at our best. A nation that does not just tolerate differences, but draws power from them. I yield back.
The representative yields back. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. McClintock, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, the big, beautiful bill is now the law. So it's no longer a theoretical discussion about what the bill might do. We're about to find out what it will do. The Democrats have succeeded in frightening Americans into lopsided opposition. On the day it passed the House, one poll registered just 29% public support for it compared to 55% opposition. This has encouraged Democrats to double down on their hysterical warnings of societal collapse, warnings they hope will continue to resonate with the public. But what they don't seem to grasp is that you can't spin the economy. Everybody knows in their own lives exactly how the economy's doing, and any politician who tries to tell them otherwise just looks foolish. Remember when the Democrats were telling us for years that Bidenomics was working? The only economic indicator that matters is the answer Americans give to this question: are you better off today than you were 2 years ago? Now, Americans may never realize that this bill protected them from a 22% income tax increase that was set to take effect on January 1st. A family making $75,000 a year won't feel its taxes rise $1,500, so it won't feel relief from this provision. We don't feel what doesn't happen. And Democrats are counting on this fact while stoking class resentments over tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires. But millionaires and billionaires don't work for tips, and they don't get paid overtime, and they don't rely on Social Security. Working families do, and for the first time, the big, beautiful bill shields these earnings from being taxed. In addition, residents of high-tax states will feel a big reduction in their federal income tax bill. Yes, businesses get relief too, those awful millionaires and billionaires, mainly in their ability to deduct 100% of their expenses for manufacturing purposes. That means that manufacturers of every variety will add equipment to their plants, increasing the productivity and the pay of existing workers and adding new jobs to make that equipment. By opening America's vast energy resources, domestic production is about to rev up, a declaration of American energy independence that will echo throughout the entire economy. Now then add the completion of the border wall and the removal of millions of illegal aliens that the Democrats allowed into our country. Under Biden, most of the new jobs were snapped up by foreigners, and real wages fell. Under Trump, most are going to Americans, and real wages for Americans are rising again as employers are forced to pay a market rate for labor. The Democrats' mantra that millions of destitute Americans will lose their Medicaid coverage is about to be challenged by reality. The fact is, the only groups losing coverage are able-bodied grown-ups who refuse to get off the couch and look for work, illegal aliens who refuse to go home, and fraudsters. So what happens when millions of legitimate Medicaid recipients who've been terrified by the Democrats realize that their benefits are untouched? Well, we're going to find out. Will the national debt balloon? Well, only if you accept the assumption that the economy is going to grow at an anemic 1.8% next year. The average 20th century growth rate, including the Depression, was 3.3%. A mere 3% growth rate will generate $4 trillion of new revenues. And that doesn't include hundreds of billions of dollars collected from imports or saved by eliminating waste identified by DOGE. So how will average Americans fare? Well, they'll be paying significantly lower taxes than they are today, especially if they work for tips or overtime or over 65 or have children or live in high-tax states. Wages long undercut by cheap illegal labor are already rising. Factories that make or buy equipment will be making and buying a lot more of it. No one unable to work will lose their Medicaid benefits. Their neighborhoods will be safer as criminal illegals are deported and not allowed to return. Their energy bills will be lower. And if all this relief creates just average economic growth, the deficit will begin to shrink. Which brings us back to the simple question that we put to people next year. Are you better off today than you were 2 years ago? Obnoxious protests, hysterical rhetoric, and doomsday trolling won't change that simple and self-evident answer. One party will have been proven undeniably right, and the other mendaciously wrong. And I think that's what the Democrats fear the most. I yield back.
The representative yields back. The chair recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Kennedy, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to honor the 75th birthday celebration of First Lady and co-pastor of Miracle Missionsful Gospel Church, Zandra Lewis, a remarkable woman of faith, service, and compassion. For over 5 decades, she has faithfully ministered alongside her husband, Pastor Dr. James A. Lewis III. Together, they've built a spiritual home grounded in prayer, love, and community. But Lady Zandra's impact goes far beyond the pulpit. She's a counselor to women and teens in crisis, a tireless advocate for our most vulnerable, and above all, she is a selfless spiritual resource for those who need it most. Lady Zandra leads not just with words, but through action, meeting people where they are, loving them as they are, and lifting them up with boundless grace and compassion. She lives her life grounded in faith, forgiveness, and a deep sense of joy. For Lady Zandra, family is everything, and nothing is more important. She's the proud mother of 4, grandmother to 8, and great-grandmother to 6. But her love doesn't stop there. Over the years, she's opened her heart to so many others who now lovingly call her mom. That says everything about the type of person that she is. As we celebrate her 75th birthday, we give thanks not only for what she's done, but for what she will do in the many years ahead. And we look forward with gratitude for all that is yet to come. On behalf of a grateful nation, thank you, Lady Zandra Lewis, for everything that you do for our community. And a happy 75th birthday. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the memory of Arthur Duke Cerati, a legendary coach and mentor whose reach extended far beyond the field, who passed away on April 14, 2025. For over 2 decades at Grover Cleveland High School, Coach Cerati led his teams to 160 wins, 12 Harvard Cups, 10 section titles, and 5 Yale Cups, including a 28-game winning streak. But his greatest victories were off the field. Coach Cerati wasn't just focused on winning, he was focused on the well-being of his players. He understood the challenges they faced off the field and made it his mission to create a safe, supportive environment for them. During football season, he'd host game nights at his own home on Fridays, not just for fun, but to keep his players safe, out of trouble, and focused before their big games on Saturday. He opened his heart and his home to young people who needed more than a coach. They needed a lifeline. Through football, basketball, and track, he instilled discipline, dignity, and hope. His son, Mike, said it best. He had a burning passion for helping, coaching, and teaching kids from any part of the country. That passion shaped lives and strengthened our city. Even after they graduated, former players often came back to visit him. That tells you everything you need to know about the kind of impact he had. His door was always open, and his care didn't end with the final whistle. Inducted into the Buffalo Sports Hall of Fame in 2003, Arthur leaves behind not only his sons Michael and David and his 4 beloved grandchildren, but a generation of men and women whose lives were forever changed by his belief in them. Western New York is better because of his mentorship. Our nation is better because of his life and his service to our community. May Coach Cerati rest in peace. I yield back.
The representative yields back. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Arrington, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Dr. Ted Mitchell, Chancellor of the Texas Tech University System, for 15 years of dedicated service to Red Raider Nation and the great state of Texas. I'm honored to have worked with Chancellor Mitchell over the years and proud to call him and his wonderful wife, Janet, dear friends. Chancellor Mitchell successfully led Texas Tech University System to new levels of growth, discovery, and educational excellence during his term. And I wish him the very best as he enters a new chapter of his life. We have a great team of regents chaired by my friend Cody Campbell, and I'm confident they'll find the right leader, but they will have big shoes to fill, no doubt, with Chancellor Mitchell's departure. Congratulations, Ted. On behalf of the people of West Texas, thank you for bearing our banner far and wide and modeling what it means to be a true, fearless champion. God bless West Texas, and long live the Matador. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the lives lost in the catastrophic floods that struck Central Texas over the 4th of July weekend. At least 134 lives have been taken, including 27 young girls and counselors at Camp Mystic in Kerr County. And this is an unimaginable and heartbreaking loss for these families and for our great state. I also want to remember constituents from my district whose lives were lost. Tanya Berwick was the epitome of a hardworking West Texas Texan. Wife to Robert, married with 4 children and 6 grandchildren. And yet, she did it all while working for the past 10 years at the Walmart Neighborhood Market in San Angelo, Texas, out of commitment to her family and their future. Holly Frizzell was also a mother and grandmother, married for almost 40 years to her husband, Lane, until he was diagnosed with dementia and ultimately passed away. So you can imagine the hardships on her in the last years of her marriage to Lane, but she turned that tragedy and struggle into service, becoming a tireless advocate for dementia awareness, and that's who she was, reflecting the very best of our country and certainly West Texas, and that's why it's a major loss to our community. Robert Brake and Joni Brake, 2 people devoted to service, him an Air Force veteran, her a registered nurse. They were celebrating the 4th of July in a campground next to Hunt, Texas. When the flood overtook them, they leave behind 3 children, 5 grandchildren, and several great-grandchildren, and they too will be missed. Mr. Speaker, Texans
as well as people throughout the country, are mourning this unimaginable tragedy. We should honor them by striving for the same sacrificial love and service that they so powerfully and beautifully demonstrated in their lives. And I would say that Texans are tough for a lot of reasons, but mostly because we believe in the power of prayer and God's sovereignty, and because we depend on Him for our comfort and confidence and strength. And I know Texans are appealing to the Father of compassion and God of all comfort to do what only He can do, what these words and any words could never do, which is provide the divine comfort and peace and strength that these families need. And so I beseech my fellow Americans and my members on both sides of the aisle, join us in prayer and asking God to do what only He can do to lift these families up, to keep them strong and together through this every step of the way. May God bless our great country. May God comfort these families, and go West Texas.
The representative yields back. The chair recognizes the gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Johnson, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 5 minutes and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today with a heavy heart to mourn the loss of so many lives across Texas. We lost the hope of our future, so many children, so many beautiful girls who just went to camp to have a good time, to bond with their friends, and to have that time that we all cherish from our memory and our own childhood. And too many lives have been lost, and we have the responsibility as members of government to have a look at why, what happened, what could we do better, and how can we make sure that things like this never, ever, ever happen again. What we know, unfortunately, is that partisan politics had a role. Republicans have historically denied the ongoing effects of climate change and what is happening in our country. Over the last decade, we've had more and more intense storms, unexpected, throughout the entire country, but surely in Texas. We've had freezes that have killed hundreds of people, and now we had a 1 in 100-year catastrophic rainstorm that produced horrific floods and tragic loss of life. And what happened in this policy is that Republicans at every level of government in our state failed the people of Texas. At the local level, they refused to have support grants from the Biden administration that would have put in place critical sirens and warning equipment that would have warned these kids at this camp to get out and flee and seek higher ground. What we know is that communities that accepted these resources, they all survived. The warnings worked. This community didn't want to accept help from a Democrat. And now we have hundreds of people that are dead. Requests were made from the state to help, ultimately. And our governor denied requests 3 times for over $1 million each time that would have again tried to provide warning equipment, again failing. And now what we have in our federal government is FEMA. FEMA is designed to be there as a last resort for communities when these unimaginable tragedies strike. FEMA trains and provides our first responders, the first line of defense, the people that go in and risk their lives at a time when it is most dangerous. And they can't do it alone, and FEMA provides critical training, resources, and supplementation. FEMA is designed to have immediate response within a minimum of 15 hours. But under President Trump and his canceling of FEMA, defunding FEMA, firing FEMA employees, terminating hundreds of FEMA employees, it was over 72 hours before critical resources were brought into Texas. 72 hours is critical when you're floating in a river and you need help. 72 hours makes the difference between life and death in these situations. And Trump and our federal government failed. After Katrina, we saw how inadequate FEMA can be sometimes. We saw the disaster of government when it didn't work, and Congress put in place some measures to repeal and increase FEMA. One of those was you have to hire an experienced administrator at FEMA, somebody who knows what they're doing, because this isn't a time to play around. And this administration hired as the director of FEMA somebody that never even knew whether or not a hurricane season existed. Somebody who has no experience in this area. And then with our Homeland Security and Secretary Noem, she put in place measures, cost-cutting measures that catastrophically impacted what the response was in this situation. Phone calls were never answered. The day after this flood happened, she canceled the contracts of the people that answer the phone when you call for help. That is not the response that this government needs, and we have to do better. So I'm calling upon my Republican colleagues, I'm calling upon everyone in this Congress to have us come together, because these tragedies don't just affect Texas, they can affect all of us. Weather is violent and fierce and deadly, and it's indiscriminate about where it strikes. But we have the ability to fix it. So I call on my colleagues to come together. Let's make it better, and let's make sure that these tragedies don't happen again.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. De La Cruz, for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning. Today, I rise to honor the brave service of McAllen police officer Ismael Garcia during the horrific attack on the McAllen Border Patrol facility last week. When an active shooter opened fire, Officer Garcia did not hesitate to jump into action. He willingly put himself in harm's way to protect his brothers and sisters in blue and green. In the face of danger, he displayed valor, sacrifice, and selflessness. When I visited him in recovery, he expressed pride in taking the bullet to protect others. Officer Garcia served our nation for 4 years in the Marine Corps, earning the Combat Action Ribbon for his bravery. For nearly a decade since, he has continued to answer the call of duty as a McAllen police officer, and we wish him a speedy recovery. May God bless Officer Garcia, our law enforcement, first responders, and the Border Patrol. Thank you, Officer Garcia, for your bravery and your courage. Today, I rise to recognize Dr. James C. Lee of Seguin for his lifetime of service and dedication to the well-being of his fellow Texans. Originally born in Houston, Dr. Lee made Seguin his home in the late 70s. For nearly 3 decades, he cared for patients of all ages and served as a founding member, treasurer, and finance chair of the Guadalupe Regional Medical Foundation. He served on the medical center's governing board as chairman and on the MHMR board, helping those with disabilities and mental health needs access support. Beloved by both patients and staff, Dr. Lee's presence will dearly be missed, but his work to help community members access their health care will live on. Outside of his work in the medical field, he was a devout Catholic, president of the Seguin Area Chamber of Commerce, a 50-year member of the Knights of Columbus, and 30-year member of the Rotary Club of Seguin. Dr. Lee's legacy is remembered by his wife, Janice, his 4 daughters, Crystal, Cynthia, Catherine, Carol, and 10 grandchildren. Thank you, and I yield back.
The representative yields back. The chair recognizes the gentlelady from Washington, Ms. Perez, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 5 minutes.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you. I rise today to celebrate the city of Centralia's 150th anniversary. My grandpa still talks with a glint in his eye about saving up milk cap bottles during the war to go watch movies at the Fox Theater. Centralia is what we all dream of as the center of the country. Not perfect, but honest, vibrant, furiously proud of its heritage, a correct ordering of pride based on real skill, deep neighborliness, a relationship to our land and water of stewardship and necessity, not just exploitation or just recreation. If you haven't made it, there's an excellent shop class, state-winning athletics. Their community college is one of the longest in existence in our state, with some of the brightest and kindest students I've met. And the Mexican food at La Trasca is unrivaled. We stand in gratitude to all the folks who have put their life's work into stewarding this incredible community in town and ensuring and modeling for the country what is worth fighting for and over. Mr. Speaker, I ask consent. Many of us mourn the cultural shift in our country towards an identity that is oriented around what you can buy and flash on social media. But I rise today with deep pride in the 90 students representing 15 high schools in my district who placed in the statewide Skills USA competition. These are young people who believe and manifest deep cultural regard for making things and doing things and being captains of their own ship. My husband actually placed in auto tech for Skills USA in high school in Oregon, and it is still one of his proudest life accomplishments. And I know it will be for many of these students too. I believe that every child who works hard should have the opportunity to be the smartest kid in their school at some point in the day. And I applaud Skills USA for ensuring that kids who are gifted in the trades, whether it's carpentry, baking, robotics, or my favorite, auto tech, have the chance to be proud of who they are and have their skills recognized and honored. Congratulations to everyone who placed in Washington State's Skills USA competition. I am so proud of you, and I know your communities are too. Your work is central to the reinvigoration of economic self-determination and agency in America. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate Roman Wagner, a 6-year-old from Adna with leukemia who became Centralia Police Chief for a day. There are 18 law enforcement agencies who take part in Chief for a Day, which honors the bravery and resilience and spirit of kids who are living with chronic diseases and illnesses. I know that good kids don't come from nowhere, that it's long work to raise a fighter who believes in public service. I'd like to thank law enforcement agencies who have advanced the long work of building safe and strong communities. To Roman, I hope the power doesn't go to your head. I hope you don't actually go to the playground and arrest your big brother at school. But whether you choose to pursue a career as a zookeeper or a police officer, know that you are valued and that some of our bravest civil servants stand with you wherever life leads you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize 2 teens from Southwest Washington who recently competed in the National Junior High Finals Rodeo. Brooklyn Bell, a 14-year-old from Rainier, finished in 2nd place for breakaway roping. Bell, with her horse Shirley, became the first roper from Washington State to place in the top 2 in the past 10 years. Jace Harris from Tenino also competed in the tie-down roping, team roping, and goat tying, and the 2 of them teamed up for ribbon roping. Jason, Brooklyn, if the 2 of you need to rope a goat, there's plenty of them here in DC to practice on. You're welcome anytime. We are so proud of you for your relationship to your animals, for your pride and pursuit of durable skills, for your tenacity, and for keeping our heritage of relationship to land and animals one of intimacy and necessity, not purely recreation. We are so proud of you and applaud you for your work. We look forward to seeing what's next. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
The representative yields back. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Carter, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize veteran Avery Lowe, Jr., a resident of the Georgia 1st District who served in the Second World War. At 103 years young, Mr. Lowe traveled back to France to be awarded the Legion of Honor. This medal is granted to only French citizens of foreign nationals who have either served France or upheld its democratic ideals. The President of the French Republic, Emmanuel Macron, nominated Mr. Lowe for this honor because he risked his life to defend French territory during World War II. This recognition is France's highest and most prestigious national order of merit. Mr. Lowe joined the Army on June 9, 1942, where he was assigned to the 537th Ordnance HMFA, Heavy Maintenance Field Army Company, as an automotive officer in Oklahoma. There he met and married his wife in August of 1943. Only 4 months after his wedding, Mr. Lowe received deployment orders abroad. On June 30th, 2025, Mr. Lowe attended a ceremony surrounded by his friends and family. While standing among his loved ones, Mr. Lowe held up a photograph of him in a Jeep under the Eiffel Tower with his bride's name, Jenny, written on the windshield. He wished for nothing more than for his late wife to be in attendance, who passed away 5 years ago. We should all thank Mr. Lowe for his courageous service during World War II and congratulate him on receiving the prestigious Legion of Honor. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Miss Lainey Urix on her retirement from the United States Army. Miss Urix served in the U.S. Army for a total of 26 years. Miss Urix has served in a variety of positions throughout her career in our nation's military. Most notably, she was Senior HR NCO and First Sergeant. In these roles, she specialized in personnel management, onboarding, compliance, and team leadership. In addition to her professional accomplishments, Ms. Urix served for over a decade playing the trombone in the United States Army Band, where she acted in multiple leadership roles. From mentoring soldiers as a first sergeant and senior HR NCO to now gaining hands-on experience in human resources at Fuji Vegetable Oil, Ms. Urix has consistently led with discipline, empathy, and excellence. It is my district's honor to be home to an American patriot like Lainey Urix. We are beyond grateful for her service and dedication to the safety of the American people. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor my good friend, Major General Chris Norrie, and for his departure from Fort Stewart. Before arriving at Fort Stewart, General Norrie served as director of the People First Task Force in the Office of the Deputy Chief of Staff at the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia. General Norrie assumed command of the 3rd Infantry Division on June 1, 2023, leading approximately 16,500 soldiers. For the past 3 years, General Norrie has led with distinction, integrity, and unwavering commitment to our soldiers, their families, and the entire Southeast Georgia community. Whether he was overseeing critical infrastructure modernization, advocating for mental health resources, or supporting first responders after natural disasters, General Norrie's dedication never faltered. It is undeniable that his efforts have strengthened the backbone of our nation's defense. Today, we honor General Norrie not only for his leadership at Fort Stewart, but for a lifetime of service dedicated to protecting the liberties of our nation. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize 82-year-old Stan Cottrell for his 1,048-mile run across the state of Georgia. Mr. Cottrell runs for causes, and this time he's running for Vet 22, an organization that works to prevent veteran suicide. The organization provides therapy and counseling, and they are hoping to soon bring housing to their homeless vets. Mr. Cottrell's devotion to the military and to veterans is rooted in his own service. He served in the Marine Corps. On his trek across Georgia, he will touch the Florida and Alabama borders before turning back north for a finish at the state capitol. Over the past 47 years, Cottrell's feet have carried him across 43 countries, and no matter where he goes, he always makes sure to bring his American flag with him. Today, we honor Stan Cottrell for his valiant patriotism and dedication to the United States military veterans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The representative yields back. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Caston, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, this week we will vote on bills to defund the police, sow the seeds for our next financial crisis, and remove any remaining fig leaf that we might hide behind when we insist that Congress is a co-equal branch of government. I'm, of course, referring to the highly misnamed Genius and Clarity Acts. Let's dive in. The way a tool is used, that's the purpose of the tool. If you watch a carpenter use a screwdriver, you can ignore someone who says that's a tool for hammering nails. Crypto's been around since 2009. Watch how people use crypto over the last 16 years, and you can ignore anyone who says this is a tool for legitimate finance because the tool is overwhelmingly used for crime. The Russians use crypto to evade sanctions and fund their war in Ukraine. The North Koreans use it to fund their nuclear program. Hamas used it to fund their October 7th attack. Fentanyl traffickers use it to get paid. All 100% of ransomware attacks in the United States get paid in crypto. That's a really good argument for legislation. And if the crypto industry did not want to hang out with criminals, they would have welcomed good legislation, but these bills are not that. The Clarity Act would exempt any platform that is the network for crypto transfers from any regulation at all. Now, that might be attractive to my Republican colleagues because Donald Trump's World Liberty Financial is one of those platforms. The Clarity Act would defund white-collar police by shifting most of these coins from the well-staffed, well-funded Securities and Exchange Commission to the much smaller CFTC. It would exempt whole classes of crypto, so-called meme coins, from any regulatory supervision. You know that Trump coin? That's a meme coin. It would allow normal, healthy public companies to evade all SEC regulation by tokenizing their stock so they can raise more money from less informed, less sophisticated, dumber investors. And finally, it would allow anyone to create a self-hosted wallet, basically like an online account, where you can transfer assets between anonymous users with absolutely no regulatory supervision. If your goal is to make money laundering easier, I have no idea how to make the Clarity Act better. And yet somehow the Genius Act manages to be even worse because it connects the fraud of crypto to the real financial system. The Genius Act is for so-called stable coins. I say so-called because they are neither stable nor are they coins. They are bits of computer code that you can buy and sell at any time, in theory, for $1 real US dollar. Now, as of May, there were 247 billion with a B dollars of stable coins in circulation. How's the tool used? 6% of them are used to buy things. Nearly 90% are used to provide a liquidity bridge between much shadier cryptocurrencies, you know, the ones contemplated by the Clarity Act. Now, to state the obvious, no one will sell you a gallon of milk for a Trump coin, but they will take dollars. So criminals need stable coins so they can make crypto crime pay. And the blockchain, of course, doesn't fix this because smart criminals cover their tracks. And they've created these digital mixers that commingle lots of crypto together and spit out a clean, or shall we say, laundered blockchain. This is why the Treasury Department has described particularly offshore mixers as, quote, a primary money laundering concern. The United States Treasury Department. Now, of course, you can't make a profit buying and selling something at the same price, so the stablecoin issuers, like banks, want to earn interest on the dollars they hold, except that those issuers are not regulated like banks. And we saw this when Silicon Valley Bank collapsed a couple of years ago, and the price of the USDC stablecoin, which was supposedly worth $1, fell to 88 cents as the run on the bank exposed the company's failure to put their deposits in insured accounts. USDC only looks stable today because all you taxpayers bailed them out with the FDIC. The Genius Act makes this problem even worse by saying that in the event of a future bank run, those uninsured crypto deposits, the irresponsible depositors, they get a claim on money before your deposits, you as a good depositor. That puts every American's deposits at risk. Amendments were introduced to fix every one of those problems, and every one of them was rejected, which brings me to a final point. You know who really benefits from crypto? Corrupt politicians. Last week, the United Arab Emirates sent $2 billion to convicted money launderer Changpeng Zhao using coins issued by Donald Trump's family. It's $2 billion in their bank account. The Trump family will earn about $30 million off this transaction, and Mr. Zhao is now asking for a pardon. These bills will make all of those crimes easier, and if we build it, crime will come. So when the crime happens, when the president gets richer, when your bank fails, when your deposits are wiped out, when the crypto bubble pops, just don't say you weren't warned.
The gentleman's time has expired.
I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Williams, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to congratulate the Aledo Bearcats on their decisive 8-1 victory in the 2025 UIL 5A Division I State Baseball Championship. The Bearcats concluded a historic season with their second state title, securing the win for the first time in 11 years. This team began the season with a unified goal and put in the work to bring their vision to life. After a hard-fought season of long practices and staying focused in school, these athletes, trainers, managers, and coaches showed dedication, strength, and an unwavering commitment to victory. I'm proud that their hard work has paid off. As these talented students prepare for the next endeavor, I wish the best of luck and blessings for an even brighter and more victorious future. Go Bearcats! In God we trust. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the Gordon Longhorns baseball team in a hard-fought season. This year, the Longhorns made school history with their first ever appearance in the UIL Class 1A state championship game. Their road to the championship was made even more remarkable by the challenges they overcame this season. On May 18, 2025, a tornado struck Gordon, leaving the school's athletic facilities, baseball field, and other resources unusable during the most crucial part of the season. The community rallied around these young men as the team practiced at neighboring schools to continue their playoff preparations. The Longhorns are a testament to determination, teamwork, and the strength of a small Texas town recovering from a natural disaster. As these students prepare for their next endeavors, I wish them the best of luck and blessings for a brighter future. Go Longhorns, in God we trust. I rise today to recognize the City of Burleson's Police Department for their remarkable work supporting victims of domestic violence. The life-saving Burleson Victim Assistance Poster Project began with one powerful phrase: if I had known someone like you existed, I would have gotten help sooner. Far too many women live in silence, unsure of where to turn, especially while still under the control or surveillance of an abuser. This is a critical gap not in services, but in awareness and safe access to those services. Recognizing the urgent need, the leaders of Burleson, Texas came together to create a simple yet profoundly effective solution: posters. These discrete posters are placed in safe, private, and secure locations where a victim can view them without fear. Each one includes a QR code that links directly to support resources as well as a hotline for those without internet access. In under 30 seconds, a victim can quickly connect to confidential help, shelter options, and emergency services. With the support from the Burleson Police Officers Association and dedicated community stakeholders, this initiative has expanded, reaching neighboring cities, rural areas, and locations across this great country. To the City of Burleson Police Department, we thank you. Your leadership and innovation has created a vital lifeline, bringing safety and hope to victims of domestic abuse. In God we trust. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize and celebrate a remarkable milestone for the Comanche Chief newspaper located in my district. For over 150 years, the Comanche Chief paper has provided trustworthy news, thoughtful commentary, entertainment, and vital resources for the people of Comanche County. It has served as a reliable voice for our community and living record of our shared history. James Claude Wilkerson first brought the newspaper in June 1925, began a proud family tradition of civic service through journalism. This year, the Wilkerson family is celebrating an extraordinary milestone, 100 years in print. Today, James Bradley Wilkerson is a fourth-generation owner, carrying on his family's legacy by serving as the paper's publisher, ensuring that the Comanche Chief continues to inform, engage, and uplift its readers. As the oldest continuous business institution in Comanche County, the Comanche Chief is more than just a newspaper, it is a pillar of our community for past and future generations. I commend the Wilkerson family for their century of stewardship, and I thank them for their continued commitment to delivering trustworthy news to the people of Texas. In God we trust. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Garcia, for 5 minutes. The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to demand that Donald Trump and our Attorney General come clean to the American people and release the Epstein files. Now, this weekend, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "Let's not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about." Well, Mr. President, a lot of people actually care. And we know that MAGA was all in on Jeffrey Epstein. Now, my Republican colleagues have sent letters, they've posted, they've demanded disclosure. Donald Trump Jr., the president's own son, has tweeted dozens of times about this case. FBI Director Kash Patel swore under oath in front of the Senate that he would be transparent with the American public and release the Epstein files. He said, and I want to quote, "Make sure the American public knows the full weight of what happened," that he would do that. That was his quote. Now, in February, our Attorney General, Pam Bondi, told Fox News that Epstein's client list was, again, and I quote, "sitting on my desk right now to review," end quote. Now, they claim there was never a list. And this weekend, Donald Trump claimed that the files were written by Obama, Hillary Clinton, and the Biden administration. These are bizarre reversals. And it's obvious to the American public. Someone is lying and someone is trying to hide something. So let's look at the facts. We know Elon Musk said publicly on June 5th that Donald Trump is mentioned in the Epstein files. We know that Epstein died in a federal prison overseen by Donald Trump's Department of Justice. We know that Jeffrey Epstein in 2008 was given a generous non-prosecution agreement for sex trafficking charges. Now, that agreement let him continue his criminal activities, and that agreement was offered by Alexandra Acosta, who was Donald Trump's chosen Secretary of Labor. That's not all. We know that Donald Trump and Epstein had a long-standing personal relationship. Epstein told one writer, and I quote, "I was Donald Trump's closest friend for 10 years, end quote. Donald Trump told New York Magazine in 2002, and I want to quote this. Quote, this is Donald Trump. "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life," unquote. That's disgusting, wrong, and we must inquire more information. The truth is we don't know what the facts are in this case. Now, I can't explain why the Trump administration have changed their minds on Epstein, but their behavior raises questions. This is the time that we must demand answers, and the Oversight Committee is going to do just that. And I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities towards the president and to direct them towards the chair. The chair recognizes the gentlelady from Indiana, Ms. Spartz, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the late Joe Mersey, longtime owner and CEO of the Indianapolis Colts. Mr. Mersey grew up surrounded by the family atmosphere of the Colts organization. He attended Southern Methodist University and earned a degree in broadcast journalism. He soon joined the franchise and worked at nearly every department, gaining experience that led to his appointment as general manager at the age of 24 before becoming sole owner of the team in 1997. The Mersey family made history by bringing the Colts to Indianapolis in 1984, a transformational move that forever changed the city's sports landscape. Their decision not only gave Indianapolis an NFL franchise, but also helped shape its identity as a major league city. Under Mr. Mersey's leadership, the Colts went on to win the Super Bowl in 2007, and the Lombardi Trophy toured over 130 miles throughout Indiana. During the tour, the Colts raised over $225,000 for charity, benefiting local communities. Mr. Mersey left a lasting mark on the city's skyline by leading the development of Lucas Oil Stadium. The stadium became home to the Colts and elevated Indianapolis as a premier host city for major events, including the 2012 Super Bowl. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit Indianapolis, Mr. Ursay chose action and personally led a fundraising drive, raising over $1.3 million in 48 hours to provide emergency meals and resources to those in need across the city. In this difficult time, he found assets and learning materials for Indianapolis students, raised money for community centers, and helped fund resources for frontline healthcare workers. Continuously charitably minded, Mr. Ursay and his family launched a mental health program in Indiana called Kicking the Stigma, aimed at educating and raising mental health awareness with the goal of ending the stigma surrounding mental health. Kicking the Stigma has raised and committed more than $31 million towards mental health research, treatment, and awareness in the region. An avid music fan and collector, Mr. Ursay started the Jim Ursay Collection, an assembly of various historic and culturally significant collector's items detailing both American and some of the world's greatest music history. His collection has been turned into a traveling museum hosting free exhibition nationwide, as well as loaning artifacts to museums, nonprofits, and other organizations for research and display. Mr. Ursay's values of family and community are seen and heard by all the Colts community. From working with his father, Robert Ursay, in the early days of Indianapolis Colts, to continuing the legacy with his daughters, Carly Ursay Gordon, Casey Foyt, and Kylene Jackson, Jim Ursay reflected generations of hard work, integrity, and commitment. His legacy stands a testament of time in the Colts organization as it continues to grow in Indianapolis. On behalf of Indiana 5th District and the great state of Indiana, I commend Mr. Ursay for his valued work and determination. Not only did he impact the Colts franchise, but his community and charitable efforts impacted Hoosiers statewide, touching upon the lives of so many individuals. From bringing the Colts to Indianapolis to helping build a stadium that redefined the city's skyline, his vision and compassion have left a lasting imprint on Indiana. Thank you to Jim Ursay. May his impact and dedication be remembered. I yield back.
The representative yields back. The chair recognizes the gentlelady from California, Ms. Simon, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request unanimous consent to address the House for 5 minutes and to revise and extend my remarks, sir.
Without objection.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in defense of every child in this nation who deserves to enter into a classroom and be treated with dignity, care, and respect. In writing these remarks, I thought of my kindergarten teacher, Miss Jasko, at Claire Lilienthal Elementary School in San Francisco. On my first day of kindergarten, and I remember it very, very clearly, my last name starts with an S, and so I sat at the back of the classroom and I kept my head down. I was not vivacious then. Within about 5 minutes of the class starting, and there was a lot of chatter of little children, Miss Jasko noticed that my head was bowed, and she brought me up to the classroom board, and she saw clearly that I was a child with an acute visual impairment. She kissed me on my forehead and asked me to sit by her desk, where I sat for the rest of the year. She understood me. I did not have to fight for the right to learn in that class. I sat next to the board. This week, the Supreme Court handed the President of the United States the power to gut the Department of Education without congressional approval. Nearly 1,400 federal staff at the Department of Education may be fired, including those tasked with protecting the civil rights and the human dignity of students. The court's decision sets a dangerous precedent as it tells the executive branch that it can effectively dismantle the very agencies that Congress was created without any oversight. Let us remember why the Department of Education exists in the first place. The Department of Education was not a bureaucratic creation. It wasn't an organization just developed just because to create more staff salaries. The Department of Education was a victory secured through the long and hard march of civil rights in this country. It was built to ensure that children in every part of this country, to make sure that they could have a real chance, not to standardize curriculum, but to standardize the worth of children, to guarantee that no matter your background, your race, your ability, your identity, where you lived, or who you prayed to, the federal government would have the back of every student in this country. If this decision stands, the Department of Education's civil rights, the Office of Civil Rights, will be shattered and guttered, which means in this office, created and implemented and investigated when these students in this country were not treated not only with respect, with dignity. That would mean schools would not be potentially required to provide accommodations for students with disabilities. So for every mother fighting for your child with autism, for every parent fighting for your child with a visual or intellectual disability, for every child who is rolling in with your wheelchair every single day, mighty with pride and glory that you too can learn and be integrated, there may not be any federal protections to make sure that you are respected. Rapes and sexual assaults on college campuses may no longer be investigated. When the cities don't investigate those sexual assaults, the federal government, particularly the Office of Civil Rights under the Department of Education, took on that role. Shame on us. National standards for protecting LGBTQ students, because they are students, they are children, will go away. Native students and Black students and Latino students and students navigating poverty and students who have disabilities may no longer have the federal support that they so deserve. This is a betrayal, it is cruel, and it is a deep attack on our children. How will the United States of America compete academically, economically, or morally if the federal government walks away from its most sacred responsibility to guarantee basic fairness in education? We cannot meet the demands of the future by returning to a past where only the privileged are protected. The work of the Department of Education was never about charity. It's always been about justice. And as bell hooks taught us, teaching
Gentlelady's time has expired.
is about liberation. Education is about more than information. It is a practice of freedom, and I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back. The chair recognizes the gentlelady from New York, Ms. Tenney, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize Colonel John Peyton Swain of the Civil Air Patrol, the U.S. Air Force auxiliary, an inspiration in the world of public service, whose legacy spans more than 60 years of volunteerism and defense of our nation's airspace, development of youth, and civic readiness. As Civil Air Patrol's first director of government relations, Colonel Swain reestablished its presence in Washington after a 50-year absence. His legislative strategy more than doubled its federal funding, built trusted bipartisan relationships on the Hill, and led the successful effort to award Civil Air Patrol the Congressional Gold Medal in honor of its World War II service. Colonel Swain's lifelong commitment from cadet to congressional liaison made Civil Air Patrol stronger, more visible, and better equipped to serve the nation. I have been proud to work with Colonel Swain to fight for Civil Air Patrol funding throughout my time in Congress and thank him for his service. I'm also thankful that my son, Trey, who now serves as a major in the United States Marine Corps, was inspired to answer the call to serve after his experience as a cadet in the Civil Air Patrol. I extend my deepest gratitude to Colonel Swain for his service and congratulate him on his retirement. Without his strategic vision and leadership, Civil Air Patrol would not be the venerable organization it is today. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the late United States Air Force veteran Rick N. Parsons for his remarkable service to our country.
Rick grew up in Lyndonville, New York, a small town in Orleans County. After graduating from Lyndonville High School in 1962, he proceeded to enroll in the United States Air Force Academy. After graduating from the academy and marrying his high school sweetheart, Nancy, he went on to serve 26 years in the United States Air Force. During his tenure, Rick would become the commander of the 32nd Tactical Fighter Squadron, Wolfhounds, later the 33rd Tactical Fighter Wing. However, his most notable accomplishment came on February 7th, 1991, when he downed an Su-717, becoming the only wing commander to record an aerial victory during Operation Desert Storm. His life of service included 2 tours in Vietnam, 1 tour in Saudi Arabia, and he logged over 5,000 hours of flight time. Rick earned the rank of colonel in the United States Air Force. Rick went on to lead another successful career as a financial advisor in Monument, Colorado. He often enjoyed spending time with his fellow 1966 Academy graduates and cheering on his grandchildren, whether they were performing in a play or competing in sports. Sadly, in 2021, Rick passed away with his wife Nancy by his side. On the 4th of July, the town of Lyndonville recognized Rick at its annual Independence Day parade, expressing gratitude for its native son for his legacy of service, valor, and leadership. It's an honor and wholly appropriate to recognize Rick's exceptional service and devotion to our great nation. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the life and legacy of my dear friend, Senator Tarky Lombardi, Jr., who passed away on November 24th, 2024. Tarky Lombardi leaves behind 5 children, 8 grandchildren, and his wife, Marianne, whom he happily was married to for over 66 years, as well as a profound legacy in service to the state of New York and our country. His wonderful grandson, Mark Fogelson, also served as an intern in my office. After earning a law degree from Syracuse University and serving in the United States Army, Tarky returned to New York, dedicating his life to public service, including 27 years in the New York State Senate, where he represented the 49th District. Senator Lombardi earned a national reputation for his accomplishments in the health field, including spearheading the Nursing Home Without Walls program, a first-of-its-kind program that was so transformative it was replicated in so many other states. Lombardi was also devoted to his alma mater, Syracuse University, and was pivotal in working with the governor of New York to facilitate the construction of the Carrier Dome. Without his advocacy, Tarky was so tenacious the dome would never have been built. Tarky was a one-of-a-kind member of the greatest generation. He loved our state and our country. He was a unifying force in the state legislature, always bringing together members of both sides of the aisle for dinners in the legacy of Reagan and O'Neill and that wonderful tradition. I just want to congratulate Tarky's family and so many who have done so much to help our region, upstate New York and Syracuse University, and all the wonderful legacy of everyone who lives in the region and everyone from the state of New York. Tarky was a dear friend, and he is so missed by many of us, including me. We just love his family, and we're grateful to him. Before I yield, Mr. Speaker, I just want to say happy birthday to my son Trey today, and for being a major in the Marine Corps. And with that, I yield.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Ivey, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I ask to be able to address the House for 5 minutes.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today with deep concern over the weaponization of ICE by the Trump administration. Just this weekend, I had a chance to see Trump border czar Tom Homan talking about how the administration is conducting the sweeps on the streets and that they're doing it to prioritize public safety and national security. But the facts tell a different story. According to CBS, only 8% of those detained have been convicted of violent crimes. The conservative Cato Institute found that only 7% of detainees were violent criminals. In fact, most detainees aren't even criminals at all. Of the people in detention, about half of them have criminal records. That's 300,000 people who are detained who do not have criminal records at all. This administration is not actually prioritizing the most dangerous people, even though President Trump promised on the campaign trail that that's exactly what he would do. Mr. Homan also said that his administration always follows the law. But last week, a federal judge ordered ICE to stop conducting roving patrols, stop the sweeping arrests without reasonable suspicion, and stop denying access to lawyers. Mr. Speaker, the findings in this case are shocking. This is some of the worst examples of racial profiling I've seen, even during my 12 years as a prosecutor. For example, some people were waiting at bus stops and having coffee, were then surrounded by ICE agents and unmarked vehicles that sped up in their direction. They leapt out with masks on and their guns drawn and ran immediately toward these individuals. They then handcuffed these individuals and forced them into vehicles and drove them away. All of this was done before they'd even asked them for identification. The men thought they were being kidnapped. Some of them were then had their feet, hands, and wrists shackled, and another man even had a gun pointed at him. The court who was reviewing these cases questioned what was it about the bus stop that caused these ICE agents to believe they had reasonable suspicion to detain these men. Reasonable suspicion means that there is evidence at the time that each of these men had committed a crime or were in the process of committing the crime. What was the basis of the ICE agents' reasonable suspicion? The government reviewed, the case reviewed it and found that the government said it was based on their past experiences, quote, have demonstrated that illegal aliens utilize and seek to work at certain places, like getting their car washed or waiting for the bus. Nothing about these men suggested that they were in the country illegally or about to commit a crime at the time that they were stopped. They didn't even ask for ID before they were gun-faced and then handcuffed and taken away. The bottom line is that these men were taken into custody simply because they were Latino. Clearly, these tactics are unconstitutional. The use of race as the basis for grabbing people on the street, the courts have long ago ruled, are across the line and illegal. These tactics threaten some of the most basic, important principles that serve as the backbone for our nation, the rule of law. Like the unlawful deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia and the willful defiance of a unanimous Supreme Court decision to bring him back, the Trump administration is unapologetic in its efforts to target immigrants, Constitution, and law be damned. Now, in addition to being unconstitutional, this wastes a great deal of tax dollars because they're detaining masses of people in these large sweeps only to have to release them when it's proof of their legal status is shown. And also horrifies the citizens who have to go through this experience. We now have Latino citizens who are afraid to leave their house to go to work or even to go to court. Remember the so-called Venezuelan violent gang members deported to the Gulag in El Salvador? As it turned out, according to the Cato Institute, 50 of those men, not only were they not criminals, their paperwork was in order, they were in the United States legally, and they hadn't committed any kind of crimes in El Salvador or Venezuela at all. Instead of focusing on criminals, they're grabbing people like the 64-year-old mother who was gardening in New Orleans, the father of 3 Marines who has been working in the United States for decades, or yesterday when ICE raided a baseball summer camp. This is not the best use of our federal law enforcement agents. I'm a former federal and state prosecutor. I deeply respect the rule of law and understand the responsibility elected officials have to protect it. We've got to do better than this. Let's focus on getting violent criminals off the street. There are more than 100,000 open warrants in the United States on any given day. Let's focus on those.
The gentleman's time has expired.
And let's move forward in a way that respects the Constitution. And with that, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Herodopoulos, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I recognize our Chief of Police in Palm Bay, Florida, Chief Mario Aguelo. Mr. Aguelo has been serving for 25 years in our community, and throughout his career, the Chief has exemplified amazing dedication, leadership, and deep commitment to public safety. In addition to his service, he founded the Palm Bay Blue Foundation, a nonprofit that supports well-being of his department's employees and their families. So on behalf of a grateful community, I want to thank the chief for his outstanding service and the commitment to the people of Palm Bay. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate 3 amazing school districts in my community. Brevard, Indian River, and Orange County have each earned the distinguished A grade from the education standards in Florida. It is a true honor to represent these school districts for their hard work and, of course, most importantly, the hard work of the students in the classroom and the teachers that lead them. As a former teacher myself at the college level, we all understand the commitment and importance of education. It is the ultimate civil right. It unlocks so much potential, and it makes sure that America stays #1 in the world in intellectual capacity. So these ratings are proof that Florida's education system works. We are a state that believes in school choice, where the parents, not the bureaucrats, have the final say in where their child goes to school each and every day. So I'm immensely proud of the Brevard, Indian River, and Orange County School District for doing the right thing and making education a priority and leading the way so that Florida can truly be the future of not only space, but of all intellectual abilities. And so with that, Mr. Speaker, I thank each of these counties, the teachers, the administrators, the team that makes Brevard, Indian River, and Orange County Schools a true A school district. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Frost, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to shine light on a moral atrocity going on in my home state of Florida. An immigrant internment camp that Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, and his administration have propped up in the middle of an abandoned airfield deep in the Florida Everglades. A place where nearly 1,000 humans are being forced to live in a tent city in the middle of the hot Florida summer, hot sun, where folks are not getting enough food. Detainees are exposed to the heat, wildlife, mosquitoes that can potentially carry disease, stripped of their civil rights, and as of this past Saturday, cut off from legal counsel. And while this humanitarian nightmare unfolds, soulless politicians like Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, grin and call this place, I'm actually not even gonna use the name that they're calling it and dignify it, but they sell merch, they make jokes, they print hats with cartoon alligators dressed up as ICE agents, and they laugh as people and families are suffering. I can tell you the amount of constituents I've heard from. Their dad is in this facility. I haven't heard from them for weeks. No one with an eyes and a conscience can ignore what this really is. It's an internment camp, a place full of people who look like me, Latinos, Haitian men, subjugated to inhumane conditions under the guise of immigration enforcement. And it's disgusting. It's un-American. It demands oversight. Members of Congress have a legally protected right to conduct oversight of immigrant detention centers. That means that we have the power to show up unannounced, as I have on other occasions, and see what's going on with our own eyes. That was my plan and the plan of my fellow Florida congressional Democrats last week. We were ready to do our jobs. Somehow word got out to the DeSantis administration that we were showing up, and so they decided to invite us at the same date and time we were going to show up anyway. But we took them up on that. We went in the facility, and here to talk a little bit about my experiences in there. You know, the state of Florida and DHS, they got wind of our visit. They got scared. They invited us. And of course, what we got was a sanitized version of the way things usually are. But even that sanitized version, to me, was of poor conditions. You know, I also heard reports that the night before we showed up, magically the detainees got their first shower they had in a while. Magically, they got one of their first, actually, good meals. And it just shows why the unannounced visits are so important to see how things really are. But I got to tell you, a clean cage is still a cage. And at the end of the day, in this facility, we have 32 men being crammed in each cage, about 4 to 6 cages in each tent. Each tent, we brought a thermometer in there, was about 84, 85 degrees, of course, in the hot Florida sun. I'll always remember walking in that front door and looking at these gentlemen in there, everyone screaming for help. One guy asking me to call his family. He was screaming out a phone number. I couldn't hear him. I couldn't get all the digits down. Only 3 sources of water per cage. They're the spigots connected to the toilets, much like the jail units we've seen. But usually in those jails, it's one of those units for 2 to 4 people, not 3 for 32 people. But I got to tell you, one of the most emotional parts for me was when we looked at the cages from afar. We weren't let in the tent, but standing at the doorway, hearing those chants, freedom, freedom, libertad, libertad, people yelling. This isn't security, it's cruelty. It's not immigration policy, it's dehumanizing people. Trump said this was about keeping people safe. He said it's about going after criminals, but we all know is one big lie. Hundreds of the people being held in this internment camp have no criminal charges. I won't stay silent while our government turns the Everglades land, of which protecting it used to be a bipartisan thing, and the state is spending $450 million from our Division of Emergency Management to run this internment camp. And we're in hurricane season. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, I don't care what you are. The state, the Division of Emergency Management has the ability to spend up to $500 million without going to the legislature and emergency money. They're going up to $450. We're about to go into hurricane season, which means that when a hurricane is barreling towards our state, they're not going to be able to do what they need to do immediately to save lives because every minute matters. They'll have to go back to the legislature and beg for more money because they spent $450 million of our money on a damn internment camp in the middle of the Everglades. Along with partners, we're going to do something about it. Of course, litigation has been filed. I think what's important for people to know is that this is a federal facility. We were told that ICE is calling the shots here. Federal facility run and operated by the state. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Oregon, Ms. Bonamici, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Older Americans Act, which President Johnson signed into law on July 14th of 1965. Older Americans Act programs serve about 11 million older adults across the country, including 212,000 people in my home state of Oregon. The Act provides vital services, including meal delivery, transportation, caregiver support, job training, and protection from elder abuse. Programs that help older Americans maintain dignity, health, and independence as they age. President Trump recently began dismantling the Administration for Community Living, which implements the older American programs and disperses funds. It is the only government entity that advocates for older adults. Almost half the staff in this office have already been laid off, jeopardizing the vital programs that support so many aging Americans and their families every single day. The Older Americans Act is a long-time bipartisan commitment. We must fight every effort to strip these services from the 11 million Americans who benefit from these programs in every congressional district in every state in this country. I look forward to working with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to bring back the cuts, to reverse those cuts, and to strongly support the Older Americans Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the chair declares the House in recess until noon today.